Alright, y'all, what's going on? So in this video we're going to talk about um, the 9V1 again, or the 9W1. We're going to talk about the 9 with the one wing. And once again, we have some challenges from the one wing that we're going to talk about, and how to overcome them challenges, and also the stress that these challenges can cause um, if not dealt with. Now, stress is a natural thing in life, and at certain times, stress can be a good thing. You know what I'm saying? It can indicate, it can basically give us indicators of where we might be off balance, or where we might need to go into in cases of growing. You know what I'm saying? Like when you grow, you need that stress for muscles to grow. You need that stress for new things to grow. So, some of the stressors that, or challenges that the number one path, the primum or the reformer, can experience have to do with perfectionism. So, perfectionism basically can hinder a one, because a one may get paralysis of analysis due to wanting things to be perfect. Something else that can also happen from perfectionism is being irritated or very critical towards yourself and others when things don't come out as perfect as you want them to be. And basically, imperfect action beats perfect action any day. So, and what's another challenge that the number one has? So, right, we talked about perfectionism, talked about being overly critical. Um, and anger was the other one, but we talked yesterday about anger, so we'll just focus mainly on those two: the perfectionism and um, gosh, y'all forgive me, perfectionism, and also another one is just being a workaholic. Right. So in order to deal with the perfectionism, you basically have to give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to make those mistakes and to learn along the way, and to know that those mistakes and mishaps are inevitable, and you will make them. Things are not always going to be perfect. However, you don't want to hold up progress for perfection. Now, perfection in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's important, and I think it's just a quality and a trait that the one has, to make sure that things are as perfect as possible. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you need to balance that with action. So the way to deal with, and what happens is when um, that perfectionism becomes an issue, it can cause stress on the one, and the one will become very irritated, because they'll feel like things aren't the way that they want them. They can be overly critical of themselves and others. So basically, you can overcome that by um, giving yourself permission to make mistakes. So the next thing is the being workaholic. So another thing is the one will have a tendency to um, want to squeeze everything into one day. Like they want to get the most out of their time as possible, because they're perfectionists. They're efficient. They want things to go their way. So yeah, being a workaholic can arise, and you can neglect um, yourself and others uh, due to this being a workaholic. So and this can cause stress, because undue stress, because you'll feel like, oh, there isn't enough hours in a day to get things done, and then you'll have these unrealistic expectations of everything that you want to get done in a day, and trying to squeeze everything into a day that just can't possibly fit. So a part of that has to do with patience. Now this kind of goes back to the nine, because the nines, one of the nines challenges is patience. But we can also see that in that number one too, with that being a workaholic. So you want to make sure you're taking that time to take breaks. Take care of yourself. Make your schedule doable. Be realistic. With your time frames and the things that you want um, to accomplish. And go ahead and stretch yourself. I don't think there's nothing wrong with pushing yourself. Having that little bit of stress of a deadline to keep you on your toes, but not so much that you know um, you're you're causing yourself harm by stressing about things not being done in a day. Rome was not built in a day. A lot of the things and the projects that you want done aren't going to get done in a day, and they're not going to get done in a week, a month, or years, depending on what you're trying to do. So it's good to have that patience. Make your schedules realistic, and kind of tying back into that the perfectionism. Give yourself that room to make those mistakes. So right, we talked about dealing with the perfectionism. We talked about being a workaholic. Um, and gosh, guys, forgive me. There was another one. There was another one, and I can't remember it for the life of me. But I actually do have a video coming up for you guys about the different ways that the different types deal with stress and express stress, like how you'll know when a different type is stressed, because it's not always going to manifest the same, but you'll be able to tell how these different types act, of whether they're stressed or not. And then I'm and including in there some practical ways you can go about dealing with this stress management. um Let me just try one more time to remember this. Gosh, so it's being a workaholic. It was being a perfectionist. Gosh, guys, and I know as soon as I cut this video off, it's gonna come to me. I already know. As soon as I cut this video off, it's gonna come to me. Because I know the other challenge was it was anger. Um, a number one will express anger in a way to where um, it's not. Sometimes it can be out uh, external, but most of the time it'll be like kind of like a brooding. Like they might start being, like I said, very overly critical of themselves and others. Putting people down, basically just taking their anger out. Feelings of disappointment, taking their anger out on things and people around them. So yes, that is how to deal with um, how the one can deal with how the one expresses stress and how it can deal with stress, um, due to being a perfectionist, due to being a workaholic, and being overly critical.